Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Ray Orr's got the day off today, so Jonathan and I are muddling our way through, trying to do everything that needs to be done. And most importantly, though, of course, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about some predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a question for us you'd like us to address, and as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And the great news about this tip link is that it's a good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be catching the John Campea Show on our audio podcast feed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, you also can send in a question. Or if you're watching this video a little bit later when we're not actually live, you can send in a question as well, and we'll just get around to answering it on our next episode. All right, guys, listen, we got a bunch of things that we need to talk about here today, but I want to remind you that a little bit later today at 4 p.m. Los Angeles time, that's 7 p.m. LA time, is our first live stream of our new YouTube channel, Filthy Sports. And we've got our first live stream a little bit later today. Very excited about it. Go and just search on YouTube for Filthy Sports. You'll find the channel, or just go to youtube.com/@Filthy Sports and go subscribe to the channel now, and we'll see you over there a little bit later. All right. With that down, guys, let's jump into some things here, shall we? We're going to start off with this. Most of the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus suck. There's a couple of exceptions. Mandalorian, seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's the consensus anyway.
Yeah, I think everybody concedes that. Andor, I still think the best thing that Star Wars has ever done since the original trilogy. And then you got a lot of other stuff. One of the things that I was looking forward to, at least I started to look forward to, and then it didn't turn out so good, was Obi-Wan. Although I contend that Obi-Wan Vader fight in the finale was baller.
Mm-hmm.
Not their first fight earlier in the season, but their finale fight was incredible. I give it all the flowers in the world, even though I ended up really not liking the show very much. Well, there's been a lot of questions since Obi-Wan is such an important character in Star Wars canon and Star Wars lore. And a lot of people, of course, love Ewan McGregor playing the role. There've been a lot of people wondering if maybe they'll do a season 2. Well, at a convention this past weekend, Ewan McGregor hinted that they're still possibly looking at doing it. This comes to us from Screen Rant, who's quoting somebody who was at Ewan McGregor's panel, who reported this: watched Ewan's panel, and his exact words about Kenobi Season 2 were, another few stories in there, and we're definitely hoping, exploring what I think would be the word to say. So Ewan McGregor is saying that they are exploring ideas. Now, before anybody gets too excited about that, for every 100 things that studios and writers and creatives explore, maybe one thing gets made. Now, I'm still of the belief that they won't do a season 2. I wouldn't mind a season 2, but I don't think they'll do one. And one of the main reasons is the ratings for it. I mean, if we take a look at this came to us from Luminate Data, who wrote this. Obi-Wan, in their report, Obi-Wan Kenobi looked like a massive hit. It launched with 7.52 million views for the premiere's first 2 days, just the first 2 days. But then that number dropped to 4.74 million in the first 2 days for the third episode. And that's a 37% decrease. By its finale, Obi-Wan was down to 3.91 million views in the first 2 days. So it's one of those things where, like The Acolyte started really strong with its viewers, relatively so. The problem is the viewership did this. And that's what Obi-Wan did. Right? A lot of people were clearly very interested in Obi-Wan show with the return of you. Dude, I was in Anaheim. I was at D23 when Ewan McGregor came out on stage and he said to Kathleen Kennedy, Kathy, ask me if I'm coming back as Obi-Wan. And Kathy Kennedy said to him, Ewan, are you coming back as Obi-Wan? And he said, yes. and the crowd went nuts and everybody went crazy.
Oh, why wouldn't you?
And yeah, everybody loves Ewan McGregor. Right?
Yeah.
I don't like the prequels at all, but I liked Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Yeah, but I was cheerleading for that to happen for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I would personally be open to a second season. But John, I thought you said you didn't like season 1. I didn't. But Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Season 1 was a bitter disappointment. I almost didn't even watch season 2. But they went back to the locker room at halftime. They wrote out their X's and O's. They figured out what they were doing well, the few things that they were doing well, and they figured out the things they were doing badly. They course corrected, came out, and like to my utter shock, Rings of Power season 2 was actually pretty damn good. And I think in Obi-Wan, as disappointing of a show that I think it was, there were pieces there, Jonathan.
Yep.
There were building blocks there. They had the pieces that I think if they did it right, and that was only reinforced by, there was a fan online. I keep forgetting the dude's name, so forgive me.
Yeah.
But there was a fan online who took the series Obi-Wan,
Yeah.
moved things around, edited a bunch of things out, and put it into one like 2-hour and 45-minute movie or something like that. And I'm not going to, Obi-Wan still wasn't great, but it was a huge improvement. That tells me the building blocks are there.
Yeah.
And if they can do what, say, Rings of Power did, go back to the drawing board and say, what are the things we can improve and what are the good things that we can build upon? And if they can do that, we might actually get some. Look, so I'll say this. I'd be down for a season 2, but I still don't, because of those ratings, I still don't think it's going to happen. But at least we know the thought of it is still alive, with Ewan saying they're exploring.
It's season 2 is happening from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view. But Ewan, you said there would be a season 2. Well, what I said was true.
From a certain point of view.
Ahsoka was, yeah, anyway. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about Ewan McGregor's comments? Did you watch the Obi-Wan series? If so, did you like it? Were you like me and disappointed in it? If you were disappointed, would you be up for a season 2? Do you think they'll ultimately do it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, the first Suicide Squad movie with Will Smith,
Right.
and Margot Robbie and the whole gang. Listen, I acknowledge that movie was a bloody mess, totally a bloody mess. But I make no apologies for the fact that I still found it entertaining. I can't rationalize why that is, but I had a good time. I mean, you know, when it was all said and done, did I have a bad time or a good time? I kind of had a good time, even though I acknowledge all the problems and the mess that it had. One of the shining lights in it was Joel Kinnaman, who played Flag. And of course, he dies in that. He came back for the second one. Now, there were rumors going around that Joel Kinnaman, even though his character died, was going to make an appearance in Peacemaker. Why? Because one of the directors of the show, when he finished shooting his episodes of season 2 of Peacemaker, he got on social media and said, I've wrapped my shooting for season 2. And in that, he tagged Joel Kinnaman. Tagged him in it. And so that obviously got a lot of people excited. Now, since then, he has removed that, and that's not there anymore. And recently, because of that, he was being interviewed. Joel Kinnaman was being interviewed, and he said something rather interesting. This comes to us from Geek Tyrant, who writes, so it was natural for Screen Rant to ask Kinnaman about this during an interview with the actor about his new movie, The Silent Hour, to which the actor gave a surprisingly blunt response. Joel Kinnaman said this when being asked if he's going to appear in Peacemaker. He said, I don't know what to say. That's ridiculous. I would never be on a show like that. It's not what I do. It's not what I do. That's ridiculous. I would never be on a show like that. It's not what I do. It's not what I do. Okay. I'm going to propose that there are two different ways of looking at this. On the one hand, in our live chat, somebody just kind of beat me to it a little bit. Elvis C in the live chat is saying he's doing an Andrew Garfield. He's deflecting. He's trolling the audience. He's look, the show director tagged him in a social media post. Maybe he was by accident. I don't know. But I think I think one of the ways of looking at this is Joel is trying to throw people off the scent. To not let people, maybe he's trying to keep a big surprise of, Rick Flag showing back up in the show. Of course, his dad is now a character in the new DCU, but, he's going to show up.
It's not beneath his dad.
It's not beneath his dad, Rick. What do you say to that, Rick? That's my best Negan.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rick.
Where are you at, Rick? So that's the one way. He's trolling the audience. Because also, what the hell do you mean you would never do something like that? You literally played this character before. Twice.
Only for cinema, John. Only for cinema.
Only for cinema. I would never lower myself to the streaming world.
Except for All Mankind. But that's different.
Yeah. For All Mankind is different. He would do that, right? Totally do that. So, so he's probably trolling. But maybe he's serious. Maybe he had, maybe after the killing of his character off, maybe he had a bad experience with somebody on a studio level, or maybe he and James Gunn don't get along, although James Gunn has recently spoken glowingly about Kinnaman, so I can't imagine that's the case. But I don't know, maybe now he's just at a different place in his career. By the way, did you see that little movie Joel Kinnaman did, that Christmas movie where he can't speak?
Right. I didn't see it, and it was on my list.
It's not great. It's not great, but the action is incredible in it. And considering, Daniel in the live chat, it's called Silent Night.
Silent Night, and then...
was it John Woo that directed that?
I'm going to look that up.
Anyway, he gives for a character and an actor who can't speak in the movie, he gives a really good performance.
Yeah, John Woo.
In it, right? So, but I don't know, maybe he's thinking, I want to be more of a this kind of actor than a that kind of actor. Look, if he's being serious, and I kind of don't think he is, it's kind of a clown ass thing to say, right? Why would you say something like that? If he's really not in it, then you pose the question, are you going to be in this? He goes, no, you know what? I loved my time playing Flag. I have great memories being on set of those, but my time for that is over. I've moved on. That's what you say. You don't say, oh, I would never.
That's clown work.
That's clown work. What was that? Yahya Abdul-Mateen said that. I'm not going to do that clown work.
Well,
I'm not going to be on a show like that.
Spoiler alert.
You were in 2 movies. It's kind of an ass clown thing to say. If that's what he's saying, I got a feeling, though, he is going to pop up in the show. Anyway, I'm just guessing. Who knows? Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this comment from Joel Kinnaman? I personally think he's trolling the audience. At least I hope he is, because if he's not, that's kind of a jerk thing to say for no reason. Anyway, whatever you guys think how this is going to work out, I think he's trolling us. Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The Penguin continues.
Doesn't it, though?
Oh, my goodness. In what has got to be one of my most pleasant surprises on television, other than Rings of Power Season 2, because Season 1 was crap, it's got to be Penguin. The first 2 episodes have completely blown me away. And last night was episode 3. And it starts... I'm just going to talk kind of in detail just about the first couple of minutes of the episode. I'm not going to go into what happens later. But it starts with, oh, now we're getting to meet Victor's family, and we're seeing a bit of his life aside from Oz.
Right.
What's his life like when he's not hanging out with Oz? And then the dialogue started to make me realize, oh, wait a minute, this might be a flashback.
Yeah. It felt a little bit beyond the Spider-Verse, because I'm like, wait a minute,
Yes.
Is this not the same world? What's going on here?
By the way, would this kid be a good kid to play a live action Miles Morales or what?
Oh, you know what? Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Tell me you don't see at least the anime. Does he not look like he's the animated Miles Morales from Across the Spider-Verse?
Just because the way he dresses, it's hard to tell about his physique, but I was going to say he just needs to bulk up. But do you know, in the last episode, when he went running from that car, I'm Dude, the camera couldn't even keep up with the rack focus. You're just like,
he's just gone.
Yeah.
I love this kid. Anyway, one of our viewers reminded me that he was the lead guy in Runaways. And like, that's where I knew him from. I loved him in Runaways. Anyway. So then I'm starting to clue in, maybe this is a flashback. And then the explosions go off. In the movie, The Batman, they do a pretty good job of communicating to the audience, Gotham just suffered a tragedy, right? With Riddler blowing up the dams and blowing up, the things holding the water back and flooding the city. Oh, this is disastrous for this city. What they just did with in the Penguin show, though, brought it home to another level that I don't think the movie was able to do.
I agree.
By showing us his family, his sister, his mom, and his dad. And then in horror, like seeing those explosions going. Because in the Batman, when the explosions go off, it's from a bird's eye view.
Right.
It's from the camera's point of view. It's zoomed out, seeing the city and the explosion going off. Here we got to viscerally feel it from Victor's perspective. And when the structure breaks and the water comes flooding in, my first thought is, oh, his family's going to be stranded because they're on a higher level. But then you see the water come in.
See, that's what got me.
Oh man.
Because when we watched it in the movie, like you get it, the water's coming in, but it always looked like it was just coming over the surface and just rushing. So it was like gonna fill up, but slowly,
like ankle high water.
And
right?
then it started to get bigger. Like, but I didn't think it was like knock out a freeway, come in like a massive wave in certain areas that would have been lower.
Yeah, and wipe out his family's apartment. Like you just saw it slam, and
then you realize, like, oh my God, the Riddler is evil, like pure evil.
Yeah, like what they did was crazy, and like that's why even Oz and the criminal underworld says what that madman did. And you know what? I think it was a great choice. I think a lesser storyteller would have cut to back inside the apartment and shown the horror on the family's faces. I think it was more horrifying not doing that.
You saw from his perspective.
You saw from his perspective,
helpless.
the way he was experiencing it.
Yeah.
And at that moment, like it changed my perception of the character, about how he acts and carries himself. Like this dude has just suffered an incredible tragedy. And if he is, and there's conflicting ideas out there, if he's Victor Zsasz, if he goes on to become Victor Zsasz, I think this context changes the way I look at that and what he could become. Because remember, one of my favorite themes in movies and storytelling is never underestimate what anger and pain can do to somebody, even the best of people. Never underestimate what anger and pain can do, even to the best of people. And again, I don't know that he's going to be Victor Zsasz. I mean, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I mean, it just made me so much more connected to this character.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised if he has he turns like face, he turns good, because he witnessed this traumatic experience of innocent people getting wiped out. Right now, he's just with Penguin dealing with, the family, right?
Right.
This thing of theirs. If he sees Penguin get to the point where we know Penguin will be hurting innocents, this may be a turn for him. You know what I mean?
But like
he's yet to actually kill someone. He's just facilitating.
But that's not necessarily true by the end of the episode. But I'm saying like because in this episode, he had his come to Jesus moment.
All right.
Right? Do I go this way or this way? And he made a choice that didn't instantly complete. Like when Anakin had his come to Jesus moment with, either help Mace or don't help Mace and side with the Emperor. The ridiculous thing about that scene is that he went from pure good guy who's a little, conflicted,
right,
to instantly, I'll go kill all the children for you, master. like just like that, right? Yeah. It was an instant turn. So that doesn't happen to Victor here, but he makes the choice that I think could possibly lead him somewhere. Anyway, again, Milioti, chef's kiss, brilliant. The guy who played the leader of one of the triads, for those of you who didn't watch the Tick series, he's the guy who played Arthur's dad, his stepdad. And I loved him in that. So it's pretty cool seeing him play gangster in this one. Again, this show just continues to shake me. I love the character depth of all these characters. They've given Oz so much depth. They've given more layers now to Victor. Miliotti's character, Sophia, learning more and more layers and dimensions to her. And I am loving this show so much. You know, I'm ready to say this about it, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a great comic book television show.
I don't even think of it as a comic book show.
It is a great television show.
Yeah.
It's not a great comic book television show. It is a great television show. And I cannot wait to see how the ratings are going on it, because I'm guessing they go up, but we will see what they do. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to watch the new episode of Penguin? If so, were you as completely blown away by it as I was? Are you digging this Victor character? Maybe you think he's annoying. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a few other things we need to talk about, including Glen Powell's new Arnold Schwarzenegger Running Man remake now has a release date, and it's sooner than you think. And Joker 2. Hopefully, we're almost at the end of ever having to talk about this movie again, but it just had its opening weekend box office, and it was far worse than they were anticipating. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second to thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made and Tile Trackers. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Life 360 Tile Trackers. So when I go out, I often bring my little backpack satchel. It's small and just big enough to hold my iPad, a backup battery, my wallet, and a few other things. Anyway, last year at a poker tournament, I thought I lost it. I freaked out for over an hour until I finally realized I had left it in the car. I wish that I had Life 360 Tile Trackers back then. And that's why you need Life 360's Tile Trackers. It's perfect for keeping track of all the important stuff that always seems to go missing. Keys, wallets, backpacks, you name it. If something's nearby, just ring your tile through the app, and if it's far away, you can track it on the map. Super simple. I've even got an electric bike that I keep in my backyard that would be pretty expensive to replace, so I slapped a tile tracker on that too. Instant peace of mind. And here's another thing I love. Unlike some other trackers, Tile won't alert thieves with notifications. It's great for families because it's not just about tracking stuff, it's about that peace of mind. So if you're ready to family-proof your family, head to tile.com and use the code Campea to get 15% off your Tile trackers today. That's tile.com, code Campea. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made and Tile for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that all down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of my favorite directors out there is Edgar Wright. I've loved just about almost all of his movies. The only one I didn't love. What was the last one he just did with Anya Taylor-Joy? Remember that one of those kind of a psychedelic murder mystery, and it looked like there was like some time shifting in it. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it. A lot of people loved it, and that's great. Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
Experimental Films 123 was the first person to put that in. Last Night in Soho. Didn't love it. Didn't love that one, but I pretty much love almost every other movie he's ever done. Baby Driver is horribly underappreciated. That movie's fantastic. Then, of course, all the movies he did with Simon Pegg and Nick, and
sure.
I just love the guy's filmmaker. Anyway, his new film, he's making with one of the hottest guys on the scene right now, Glen Powell, as they are doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger classic remake of The Running Man, and now we know when it's coming out. Our friends over at Joe Blow just wrote the following. Paramount Pictures has announced a handful of new release dates for its upcoming films, including Edgar Wright's remake of The Running Man starring Glen Powell. The much-anticipated flick will be released on November 21st, 2025. That's basically only a year away.
Yep.
That's coming out sooner than I thought it would. Because I honestly didn't even know that they had started production on this, or if they have started production on this. But I'm sure they've got a lot of work done on it. They probably got a lot of previs and a lot of all that kind of stuff worked out. And I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to this, and I'll tell you why. Besides the fact that the number one person responsible for making a movie good or not is the director. Not the only person responsible, but the main person responsible. And I have all the faith in the world in Edgar Wright. Everybody's got a bad day at the office. I didn't love Last Night in Soho. That's fine. But I just trust this guy's sensibilities. I love his timing, his sense of narrative. I just love the guy. Also, I'm really becoming a fan of Glen Powell. Now, is he going to win any Oscars? I don't think so, but I think he's got really good on-screen charisma. I think he's going to do a good job. But the other reason I'm kind of looking forward to this is because Jonathan, hold an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
Me?
That happens. That's been known to happen.
Me having an unpopular opinion? There was another remake of an Arnold Schwarzenegger classic film that they did 10, 11, 12 years ago with Colin Farrell and Walter White. Bryan Cranston was in it. And what was the name of that one again?
That was Total Recall.
That was Total Recall.
Yeah.
And you know what? I did not mind Total Recall.
I think
it was great?
No.
I'm not going to say it was great, but I liked it. I had fun with it. Did you get a chance to see it?
I did. I mean, we're going back a while now.
Yeah, it's been a bit since that movie
trying to bring up an image here, but yeah, that was the image of him there. Apparently, that's a signed image of him, but
that's before he let himself go and became the Penguin.
Yeah, he really let himself go.
Can you still believe that guy's the Penguin?
There is only moments when I'm watching it, and I'm like, there he is. I see him in those eyes.
There he is.
But honestly, there's a lot of times where I'm like, this is just what the actor looks like. You know?
Yeah, that's what he looks like. And so look, somebody's taken an Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, and let's be honest, the original Total Recall ain't exactly Shakespeare. But they made something that was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
If they can even just give us that for The Running Man. And you know what? I think when you look at the theme and the story of The Running Man, I think it's better suited as a movie today than it even was when it came out. So I think there's some potential there. I'll say this. I don't know the casting of the movie. But remember who the bad guy was? Richard Dawson. The host of Family
the original,
Feud.
the host, you're talking about,
Yeah. Richard Dawson was the bad guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was good. So I'm really curious to see who they're going to make their villain in this, who they're going to cast as the villain. So I'm down for this. And the thing is only again, I didn't think it was going to come out to sometime into mid 2026 to late 2026, but it's coming out just basically your way. Question is for you guys. What do you think? Are you looking forward to this movie? I'm going to admit, I actually kind of am. I'm not going to say it's going to be on any most anticipated of 2025 lists or anything like that, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. However you guys think about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. I'm already seeing a couple people in the live chat saying Steve Harvey should be the villain. That's actually kind of perfect.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of perfect.
Yeah.
He'll
get the wrong winner.
Yeah. Only some people will get that. What was that, Miss Universe?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. it was the Miss Philippines that got screwed out of that one, I think. Anyway. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? We've already done a post-mortem on Joker 2, right? The movie was horrible. And I remember when I saw it last week, I saw it at an early screening with a few other people got to as well. And at that time, it still had like a 61% critic rating. Didn't have many reviews, but it had like a 61%. And that's fine because the first Joker only ended up having like a 67. So that's fine. And I love the first Joker. Love that movie. So when I came out of Joker 2, absolutely hating it, I thought I was going to be in the minority. I thought everybody's going to say, you know, what's Campea smoking? Because I came out of that. I did my out of the theater reaction. And I'm like, this is a movie that is a pointless movie. It had nothing to say. Everything that was great about the first Joker is completely void and gone in this movie. I completely hated it. Well, then the box office score or the critics scores fell. Right now, it's sitting at 33%.
That's astounding to me.
But here's the most astounding thing. I talked about this on Friday's show that I did solo. Its audience score of 31%. And remember, these are verified on Rotten Tomatoes now. They have verified scoring. So like they only let people's votes count if it's verified they saw the movie.
Right.
At a 2,500 plus ratings from audiences, it's got a 31%. Here's the crazy thing, Jonathan. That makes it a lower audience score than Madam Web. I just want, for those of you who weren't here on Friday, I just want to let that sink in.
You know
for a
why?
second.
Because it's because people's hearts were broken.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I said the reason I think is I don't believe for a second that Madam Web is a better movie than Joker 2.
No way.
It's terrible, but I don't believe Joker 2 is worse than Madam Web. My theory was that I said on Friday was Madam Web didn't hurt people. Like Madam Web, we all went in there with very realistic expectations. Yeah. Like we all went in there saying, this is probably going to suck. What do you got? And then it gave us what it gave us and it was terrible. But Joker 2, I think it hurt some people.
Yeah.
I think it broke some people's hearts because people like me, like so in love with the first movie, had Joker 2 high on the most anticipated list of 2024 rankings.
I heard people coming out of the theater, they were screaming. They were like, you were the chosen one, Joker. You were supposed to bring balance to the DCU, not destroy it.
And of course, reminding everybody, this is not in the DCU, but still, you know, that's crazy. Well, now's where the really important numbers come in. Box office. Now, the first Joker movie made nearly $100 million in its opening weekend. And listen, I've been saying all year, Joker 2 will not do that. I've been saying all year, Joker 2 will not equal the first one's box office. It will not be $1 billion film because even though there's a lot of people like me who really loved it, hey, there was a lot of people that Joker didn't work for, right? There's a lot of people who saw Joker 1 and added to that $1 billion total that didn't really like it, didn't work for them, and I didn't expect that they would come back. So I've been saying all year it's not going to do as well as Joker 2, but I said it's still going to do well. It's still going to do well. It's still going to make money. I'm not so sure about that now. Because according to reports, Joker 2 stumbles hard at the box office following vicious reviews. This is what it says. Per Variety, Joker Folie Deux has opened at #1 at the box office, but that's where the good news ends. The film has pulled in $40 million in its opening weekend at the domestic box office, down significantly from the movie's initial projections of up to $70 million. The return is also much lower than what the original Joker earned in 2019, dropping during the same weekend with an opening. Remember, Joker 1 opened with $96.2 million.
Right.
It is likely that the negative reception of the film played a big part in the turnout getting such a big hit. I want to put this in some context. This means that Joker 2, its opening weekend, had an almost 60% drop from Joker 1. Less than half in its opening weekend of what Joker 1 made its opening weekend. Now, look, I also want to remind everybody that there are certain films this year that would have killed to have a $40 million opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Furiosa, anybody? Would have loved that $40 million opening weekend.
I love that movie. What a shame.
Yeah. You know, another movie I loved this shit? Fall Guy.
Yes.
Fall Guy's another one that would kill to have a $40 million.
It was like people didn't even know about it.
Again, great. I don't understand what happened in the first part of you. Two great movies, both like fell flat on their face.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to remind everybody, Transformers 1, anybody? That movie's been out for 3 weeks. It still hasn't made $100 million. And it's a great movie. But, so as we're talking about the financial disaster that Joker 2 is, I do want us all to keep in mind that there are certain filmmakers out there that would have gone, I would have liked to have had a $40 million opening weekend. And well, you should. But in context, when the first movie was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, winning 2, including a nomination for Best Picture, and being the first R-rated film in history to make over $1 billion at the box office, with one of the most celebrated actors of our time, who won the Academy Award for Best Actor in it, to drop 60% is pretty nuts. And Jonathan, here's something else that happened to me this weekend that I can honestly not remember the last time I heard this. We always have movies come out that disappoint us. Sure, that's always going to happen. There are going to be movies that we're really excited about that disappoint us. You know, hey, I got my tickets this weekend. Uh-oh, I'm hearing bad things. Well, hopefully it works for me, right? I had 2 separate groups of people that I literally talked to in the last 48, 72 hours who have told me, oh, yeah, I'm free whatever night because I just canceled my Joker tickets. I've had 2 separate groups of people tell me that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got a free night now on Saturday because I canceled my Joker tickets.
I went and saw Saturday Night.
Oh.
Which I loved. But I had a Joker
was not playing anywhere near me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like literally people come and say, yeah, I've read nothing but disastrous things. Like I don't remember the last time I actually had people tell me I've heard X movie is horrendous, so I've canceled my tickets. Normally you still go and you want to go and see for yourself, but maybe people just don't want to get heartbroken.
The problem is that good news travels fast, but bad news
travels faster,
much faster,
and with much more force.
Yeah.
And word just kind of got out there. And now making 40 million, listen, I think Variety reported that Joker 2 needs to make 450 million to break even. And that's a realistic number. Normally these outlets, they get it completely wrong, but that 450 is actually realistic because it costs 250 million to make it. They spent a very hefty near $100 million on marketing this movie. So that means that's $300 million. Theaters keep about 1/3. Ergo, they need about $450 million to break even. They're right about that. It ain't going to make I don't think it's going to make 450 million.
I think it's on track between 3 and 4.
Probably, but here's the question. The track is eroding. I don't know that there's going to be a track.
I think the only silver lining I see here, I could just bring it up here, is that oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. But their worldwide is at 81 million. That counts for 67% of the take.
Yep, which is
so
huge.
They're going to have to lean heavy on international and hope that this carries them because that's kind of their only hope.
The problem is word of mouth spreads internationally too.
In French.
Sacre bleu. Oui.
you think English word of mouth, bad word of mouth is bad. Oh man.
Oh, the French don't like that. Believe me, I had to speak French for 7 years.
They're going to fart in their general direction.
Fart in your general directions. And not even bringing elderberries will make it right. I'm worried about this film. Todd Phillips has said, this is it. I'm not going to make any more comic book movies, which is fine. Hey, listen, I don't want this to take away from the first Joker. The first Joker is magnificent.
I don't think it can take away from that.
That movie has so much to say. It's layered with nuance, so much social commentary, it's just a brilliant movie to me. It didn't work for everybody. I respect that, but for me, it was brilliant. And like how they just turned around. Listen, Todd Phillips does not have a good sequel record. Because, he made The Hangover, which I think is in the conversation of one of the greatest comedies ever. And then he made The Hangover 2.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on 3.
Oh, well, yeah. You know what? I'll be honest. I don't even remember a damn thing about 3.
Nor do I.
I don't remember a damn thing about
And I
it.
was really let down about 2. I was so excited going into that theater for 2, and I was just like, what? I don't know what this is.
So, yeah. So Joker stumbles onto its face. Again, want to remind everybody that there are a lot of movies this year that would have loved to have made 40 million. But this was a $200 million movie. Coming off of Academy Award wins, coming off a Best Picture nomination, coming off a $1 billion result. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of it unfolds. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Even the projections were like, maybe it'll make 60, maybe it'll make 70, which already would have been a big drop from the first one. It made 40. How bad is this? Do you think it can build some momentum and still break even and maybe make a little bit of money? Do you think it's just going to drop like a rock? I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, of course, which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick moment and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Our friends, I've been using them for years. I love them. The good folks over at Acorns. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Acorns. Hey guys, John here. I want to talk about something that I've been using that really simplifies saving and investing. Acorns. Now, I know a lot of you might find investing intimidating. Maybe you don't know where to start, or you think you need a ton of money to make it worthwhile, but trust me, I've been there. And that's why I love Acorns. Acorns makes it super easy to automatically save and invest. And the best part, you can get started with just your spare change. Literally, Acorns takes that leftover change from everyday purchases and invests it for you. Acorns builds a portfolio specifically for you based on your money goals, and then it automatically invests your money for you. You don't need to be an expert at all. For me, it was an absolute game changer. When I got started, I was busy. I didn't have time to sit around managing my investments, but I still wanted my money to have a chance to grow. Acorns took care of that for me effortlessly. So if you're ready to start investing in your future, head to acorns.com/Campea or download the Acorns app to start today. Client testimonial. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Acorns for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, let's move on to the important stuff. Your live questions, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
TJ Perry is up first. Another Banshee recommendation.
Oh, my God.
I know you love heist movies and badass good guys who take pleasure in punishing bad guys, so there's a lot to it like that. No, there's a lot to like there. Each of the 4 or 5 seasons have great, memorable villains, too. Watch while Anna's away.
All right, so first of all, TJ, thank you so much. But let me say this to everybody. Guys, I've received the message. I should watch Banshee. I get it. I hear you. Because I feel like every day we have somebody writing and saying, John, you should really watch Banshee. For those of you who don't know, it's the guy who plays Homelander in The Boys. It's a show that he did. And I've heard great glowing things about it. So I will get around to giving it a shot. So thank you again for adding to the recommendation. All right, what's next?
Eddie Burton says, saw Joker 2, and I 100% agree with most of your thoughts on it. Biggest being, it's a movie that doesn't need to exist, but it got me curious. If you, John, were focused or forced to by the studio to make the sequel, what direction would you have taken the story?
I mean, it doesn't matter. Who cares what I would have done with it? Like, it's just that you did such a good job. They could have just continued down the road they were already on, right? They could have just continued down the road of it, just exploring him. Like, the whole movie could have just taken place in the prison, as long as you keep going on down that road of, because remember, essentially the first movie was about a broken man in a broken world, and that broken world didn't know how to deal with somebody like Arthur and his brokenness, you know, and everything about the separation of the classes and the stigmas related to mental health and all. There was so much to say. I just kind of wish they had stopped and asked the question as they started to write a screenplay for the second one. What is it we're trying to say with this movie? And I've heard some people say, John, the message of the movie is that there's consequences to your actions. Nah, that's a message of a scene. That's not a message for a movie. That's a good message for a scene. And just this movie just had nothing to say. It became, you know what it was? You know, at the end of some movies, like the movie ends and then they'll bring up white text on a black screen. 4 months after the heist, so-and-so retired to Palm Springs and became this. This character ended up getting caught by police and went here. You know that?
Yep.
That's Joker 2. Joker 2 is a 2+ hour movie that was really just a 30 seconds white text on the black screen at the end of Joker 1 saying, Arthur went on to be convicted of his crimes and ended up getting murdered in prison. That's it. I just told you the whole movie. Spoiler alert. I just gave away the whole movie. And that's what Joker 2 was. It was the little post movie pre-credit, what happened to them after the movie was done. That's all of Joker 2. All right. What's next?
We got Twilight Boy.
Twilight Boy.
I loved Rings of Power Season 2. It's easily overtaken House of the Dragon as the best fantasy show on right now for me. But House of the Dragon Season 2's last half declined in quality, in my opinion. But just in my opinion. The last 2 episodes of Rings of Power Season 2 in particular were downright riveting.
Okay, listen, I still think House of the Dragon is better. And I personally, thank you for sharing your thought. My thought was I did not feel it declined at all. I thought the inner character drama just got more riveting in House of the Dragon Season 2, but that's just me, whatever. But again, Rings of Power, and I've been saying this a lot the last number of weeks, Rings of Power Season 2 so exceeded my expectations because and it's hard to not exceed the expectations because the expectations after that crappy Season 1 would have been hard to come in under them. But yeah, it's a show that just started off much better than Season 1 and then just kept getting better and better and better. And I really love it. Still not as good as House of the Dragon in my opinion, but I'm right there with you. I ended up really enjoying Season 2 a lot. All right, what's next?
It's all groovy. Says, I'm just going to say it. I think Hugh Jackman deserves an Oscar for Deadpool and Wolverine. Every time I rewatch it at home, I'm blown away by his performance. He really brings it, even in scenes where he doesn't have to.
Okay, and look, I appreciate that. And I think he's great in Deadpool and Wolverine. But how can you say he deserves the Oscar? You haven't seen all the main contenders for Best Supporting Actor yet. You haven't seen Stanley Tucci in The Conclave. You haven't seen all these real awards movies that are coming in the next few months that are going to have these powerhouse performances. You haven't seen them. So it's ridiculous for us to say Hugh Jackman should win the award. For all you know, he only gives the 12th, 13th, or 14th best performance. It's what is safe to say is that Hugh Jackman did great in the movie. He he elevated Deadpool and Wolverine. He's great in it. But it's, hey, after December 31st, if you've now seen all these major contending movies and then you want to say Hugh Jackman deserves it, then I think it's okay to do that. But right now it's completely premature, really premature when we haven't even seen all the main contenders for it yet, because there are some big ones. All right, what's next?
Matan says, with how hard the blame game is for Joker 2, I wonder if it makes Zaslav to call it quits as it paints a bad picture on his decision-making skills. It was the first thing he greenlit, and days after Batgirl nonetheless.
No, that's idiotic. We've already gone over this. You put out a movie that, admittedly, and I talked about this a lot, should have just been a one-shot movie and was planned as a one-shot movie. But you would not last in this business because nobody expected the movie to get 11 Oscar nominations, win Best Lead Actor, become the first or the second comic book movie in history to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Oh, and become a $1 billion film and the first R-rated film to do it, and the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. There is not a studio on the planet that would not have pushed through a sequel. That's just the fact. That's a reality. There's not a studio on the planet that would not have pushed through a sequel. Every studio would have done it. Everyone would have done it. Now, that being said, the responsibility for this is Todd Phillips. Listen, I love Sam Raimi. I love Sam Raimi. I've had a chance to get together with Sam Raimi on a couple of occasions. He gave me one of my most prized movie little things, actually. Anyway, I love Sam Raimi. But as much of a huge fanboy as I am of Sam Raimi, whenever people bring up Spider-Man 3 with the Venom fiasco, everybody wants to blame the studio. It's Sam Raimi's movie. Well, you don't understand, John. You say the studio made him put in Venom. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So then you know what Sam Raimi should have done? He should have made a good movie with Venom in it. Do you know how many studio notes Peter Jackson got on Lord of the Rings? People live in some kind of fairy tale land where Peter Jackson just had unfettered control. No. He got tons of studio notes. But you know what he did with the studio notes? He went, okay. I mean, he fought back on some of them, but some of them went, okay, well, I'll make the best I can of this and I'll make a good movie out of it. Yes, the studio put up tons of money for Todd Phillips to make a Joker sequel. So Todd Phillips should have made a good Joker sequel, and he didn't. But the reality is that, again, every single studio, you're just sticking your head in the sand if you don't acknowledge that every single studio on the planet, if Joker 1 had been a Paramount movie, they absolutely would have done a sequel. If Joker had been a Disney film, they absolutely would have greenlit a sequel. If they were an A24 film, they would have greenlit a sequel. So everybody who's going to do it, it then becomes the responsibility of the screenwriter and the director and the producers involved and the creators involved to make a good movie out of it. And listen, making a good movie is a Herculean, almost impossible task. All film fans think making a good movie is easy. It's not. It's incredibly hard. And sometimes you're going to hit it out of the park, and sometimes you're going to strike out. But it was up to the filmmakers then. Hey, they got given all the money in the world to do it. They got a $200 million budget. They got carte blanche to go and make your movie, and they gave us Joker 2. So I don't blame a studio head for that. That's right on the writer and the director, who in this case happened to be the same person, Todd Phillips, who I am still a big fan of. He's made some great, wonderful movies, and I look forward to what he makes in the future. But he absolutely laid an egg on this one. All right, what's next?
Simon says, hi, John and crew. I was wondering how Netflix is going to release the episodes of Arcane Season 2. 3 episodes each week, like what they did for Season 1, or all at once, like Netflix usually does?
I don't know officially, but it worked very well for them doing 3 episodes one week, 3 episodes the next week, 3 episodes the next week. That worked very well for them. So while I don't know officially what the answer to that question is, I would be surprised if they don't do it the same way. So my guess is, and anybody in the live chat might, actually Dr. Stinky is saying it is 3 each week. It is confirmed. So yeah, I would have been shocked if they didn't. So yes, it'll be 3 episodes per week. All right, what's next?
All right. Karam says, I just did a double feature on Sunday with Transformers 1 and Joker 2. I very much enjoyed Transformers 1. I think I might go back for another showing. Joker 2, on the other hand, not so much. Also, thank you guys for your entertainment.
Man, it so breaks my heart. If you had asked me 3 months ago, do you think Transformers 1 will be better than Joker 2? No. Yeah, it is. Oh my God, Joker just made more money in its opening weekend than Transformers 1 has made in 3 weeks. Let me say that again. Joker just made a terrible movie, just made more money in its opening week than Transformers 1 has made in the first 3 weeks. Transformers 1 worldwide has only made $97 million so far.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks because that movie's great. I think it's the best Transformers movie they've ever made. It's the I've said it's the Transformers movie I've been waiting my whole life for. It's not the greatest movie of all time. It's not going to be in the top 5 of the year, but I really love that film, and it's a shame how much it did not make. All right, what's next?
Fanboy says, hey, John, longtime fan of the show, and out of curiosity, I watched the oldest video your channel had on YouTube, a movie blog video format from 2006, and the first topic you ever had was, are DVDs coming out too soon and its effect on the box office?
You know what's funny? I remember that. That's when I did it for my old apartment.
I mean, DVDs, it used to be almost a year till you ever saw it again, 9 months to a year. And
then they started moving up them coming out. And I remember it's and now here we are. Talk about slippery slope. Now here we are, 18 years later, and we're still having to wrestle with. They keep hurting the industry by moving home video releases up sooner and sooner and sooner. And that was back when it was still a couple of months you had to wait for the DVDs to come out. And that was back when we were still talking about DVDs. Oh, that's crazy. That's one of the big arguments. Somebody brought this up the other day when Chris and I were talking about it. One of the biggest arguments against physical media is like, okay, let's say you were big into collecting physical media in the DVD days. All your physical media is now totally antiquated and totally out of date because it's standard definition. Forget 4K. It's not even high def. It's not even HD. You probably spent thousands of dollars on copies of movies that are in crappy 480. And now you gotta go and spend it all again on Blu-ray. So I know people who went out and then dropped all their money again to go out and replace all their DVDs with Blu-ray so they could have that crisp, shiny 1080. Well, now 1080 is passé. Now it's 4K. And now Sony's got an 8K. And that's one of the things about physical. Again, there's a lot of arguments for physical media, some arguments against it. But one of the arguments against it is that you can drop all this money on it, and now you're dealing with this out-of-date, antiquated, totally dated media that isn't even like phone-worthy. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, saw Joker 2 and haven't been that disappointed in a movie since Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
The third act was so boring and every single part, singing part, got groans from the audience.
I said this in my out of the theater reaction. Well, I'll mention it here again. In a musical, in a properly done musical, let's just take, for example, say, Greatest Showman. Music tells the story. You bring in a musical number to further the story and tell the story. And then when the music number stops, the movie picks up from where it leaves off and continues to tell the story. Music should tell your story.
Right.
In Joker 2, the music numbers interrupted the story. The music numbers were pointless. Just now, okay, we're telling the story. Now, everybody hold up a second. We're going to do a musical number, okay? Then we'll get right back to the movie. It was really disappointing that way. They just did it very, very badly. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Amin with a three-parter. Joker 2 is not a great film, but I liked it, and I think it does have something to say. It shows how people care more about the persona than the person behind it. We're seeing that with how audiences are reacting to the film. They're upset it's not the Joker they expected, focusing on the show, not the substance. It's like how the world works now. People are drawn more to the spectacle than the truth of what's really going on. This film is about Arthur, not Joker. I'm not saying people need to like it, but there's a message there, even if it struggles to show it. Honestly, I'd rather see films like Joker 2 or Megalopolis that push boundaries and take risks than repetitive films. We need more bold, creative projects that's just my 2 cents.
I'll say this, Amin. What I will completely disagree with you about is that Joker 2 took no risks. Joker 2 is the epitome of a movie that played it safe. They took tons of risks and made big, bold swings in Joker 1. They did not do that with Joker 2 at all. And I say this as somebody who, on the record, I applauded the decision when they first announced it that they were going to have musical elements in it. I thought that was really creative when you're talking about the psyche of Arthur and all that kind of stuff. I thought this could be really cool. It could be a swing and a miss, but it could be really cool. But one of my biggest disappointments, with Joker 2 was that it took no risks. Arthur's in jail. Okay. And Arthur's having a hard time in jail. Yeah, well, that's jail. And he's on trial. Well, yeah, that's why they put him in jail. It just didn't. Now, I will concede, though, that I do think you raised an interesting point about the whole idea about people cared more about the facade than the real person. I think that's a valid observation. I do think that's a valid observation about the movie. Again, to me, that's a message or an observation that's good for a scene or a couple of scenes, not your entire movie. But I do think that is a valid observation about that. That was one thing that it kind of did make a statement about. It didn't do it well, but I think you are right that it did do that. I think that's a good observation. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, for better or worse, I think Secret Wars is going to go hard on appearances of different versions of different characters. Do you think there's any chance at all we see David Hasselhoff's largely forgotten Nick Fury?
I think it's too late for that. I think if Secret Wars had been done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe. I don't think so anymore. But, listen, I'm somebody who kind of hates multiverse as much as I hate time travel in movies. But even though I hate time travel in movies, there are some movies that use time travel excellently. Hopefully this will be one of those movies that uses, multiverse excellently. And if you understand the Secret Wars story, well, it calls for a lot of multiverse shenanigans and a lot of variants and stuff like that. So I think you're right. We're going to see an awful lot of characters and probably an awful lot of versions of characters in this movie. Hopefully they do it exceedingly well. But my guess is that, no, I don't think the David Hasselhoff one will be one of them. I think 99% of people don't even know David Hasselhoff ever played Nick Fury.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Garden Variety says Megalopolis equals 1/100th of a Black Adam. Yeah, it's very fractional. They're
What is the box office on Megapolis?
Yeah, I'll look that up. But it's what we call in the industry a nano atom. Yeah.
I'll go pull it up here.
Now I got to figure out how to freaking spell it.
Megalopolis has made $8 million. I have to say that again. I cannot believe that. Megapolis has worldwide made $8.5 million. What did we say was the budget on this? Was it 120 million?
Oof, it was a lot. It was a lot of vineyard space.
A lot of money. And it's made $8.5 million. You know what? I'm going to stop complaining about how little Transformers 1 has made. It's made 1/100th of a Black Adam. Well, no, a 1/50th of a Black Adam. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety's back. It says episode 3. Damn, give Colin Farrell and Kristen Milioti the Emmys now. Amazing acting and writing. Gotham is so lived in. I felt like I've been at that club, on that roof, at that bus station.
Everybody talks about, if you're going to do this comic book property, but we're going to make it feel grounded. And sometimes they do give it an element of feeling grounded, but man, this thing feels like, I love it when the comic book genre creates the feel of the extraordinary within the mundane. That's a phrase I've been using for like 20 years. It's at its best when it's the extraordinary within the mundane, when we feel like this is actually our world. And what would it feel like if something truly extraordinary came into it, right? And they've just done such a good job on this. And Leah, listen, Colin Farrell and Kristen Milioti, it's not just a pipe dream. Like these performances are so good that I really do suspect, I expect actually that we're going to hear their names mentioned once it comes time. I mean, we just had the Emmys, so it's going to be, we're going to have to wait a while, but I do expect we're going to hear the names brought up once Emmy nominations are made. They're just that good. Now, whether they deserve to win or not, maybe there'll be a whole bunch of other better performances, I don't know, but right now I wouldn't be surprised at all to hear their names mentioned. All right, what's next?
Swanson Burgundy says, it's been over a year since we called it on going to movie theaters, so we finally watched Deadpool and Wolverine this past weekend. Not going to lie, this would have been fun to watch in a theater. Still won't go back until audiences are kept in check, though. That sounds like that's your theater or area where you're at, because I just don't have that problem. Like,
I don't have that.
It's the exception, not the rule, when there's just something weird going on in my theater.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I'm just stupid lucky, but I'm literally somebody who's gone to the movies thousands of times. Mm-hmm. And I can probably name every time that I've had a real legitimate distraction from an individual in the theater. It is by far the exception and not the rule. Again, maybe that's just me. Now, granted, I come from Canada. We are much more well-behaved civil people, but I've also been living in LA for like close to 15 years now, and not the most civil people. and yet I find like maybe 1 out of every 20 times, maybe one out of every 20 times, maybe even 30 or 40 or 50 times that I've gone to the movie theater, do I actually like have something happen in it that I walked out going, oh, I just couldn't enjoy the movie because so-and-so kept having their phone ring but anyway, that's just me. But yes, Deadpool and Wolverine, one of those movies that is definitely much better enjoyed and experienced with a theater full of people all having a good time together. It just elevates it to a level that you just can't replicate at home, unfortunately. All right, what's next?
Future Man says, John, I can't believe how much I like Ring of Power now. What a turnaround. Those last few episodes had me feeling like I was actually watching a Lord of the Rings show. I'm super pumped for season 3 and hopefully a season 4 5. Amazing performance by Lord Celebrimbor, by the way.
Listen, you know what? I love that you said that. And that's fine. That's fine. Season 1 didn't need to feel like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. To be good, it didn't need to feel like Peter Jackson's. And it's certainly enough, it didn't feel like Lord of the Rings. And it also just so happened to be a bad show. Had its moments, had a couple of episodes I enjoyed, but overall it was just a bad show. And I'm not saying I enjoy this season more because it does feel like Lord of the Rings. I think the two are happy coincidences, but this season just stepped it up with its much better storytelling, much crisper, cut out a lot of the fat, and it just felt more like I was in it just, from the cinematography point of view, even certain camera movements felt right out of something Peter Jackson would have done in the Lord of the Rings films. By the way, can I mention something? Side note. So my wife Ann is off in Paris right now, visiting Disneyland over there with her friend Kat, and the girls are having a good time. So the other night, I came across a clip of The Hobbit, and I don't know why. I just click on that. Oh yeah, I like Smaug. Let me see that clip of Smaug. And so I watched that clip. It was like a 2-minute clip, and I went, you know, I'm going to go, I don't know why. I suddenly feel like I've got some free time here. I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch The Hobbit. In the span of a day, I watched all 3 Hobbit movies again. I'm going to say this. I think these movies are better than we remember. And the reason I think I felt that way was because I watched them all together. And here's what I mean. One of the big problems with the Hobbit films was that the Hobbit was one small book story that had a beginning, a middle, and an end. A movie needs to have its own beginning, middle, of end. And the first movie didn't feel like it had a beginning, middle, and end. And the second movie, the Desolation of Smaug, also didn't feel like it had a beginning, middle, and end. And the third Hobbit film, I think it was called Battle of the Five Armies. It just felt like the third act of a movie. It didn't feel like its own individual film. It didn't feel like it had a beginning, middle, and end with things that built up and built around. And so all 3 movies to me felt very weird and awkward. Certainly I didn't hate them. I actually kind of liked them, but they felt weird. But when I sat down and watched them all together, they're still not nearly as good as the Lord of the Rings films. But when I sat down and watched them all together this weekend, I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I did the first time I watched them individually. You know what I mean? And yeah, Uncle Gilbert is saying Hobbit should have been one movie. No, it should not have been one movie. It absolutely should not, but it shouldn't have been 3. Inasmuch that it should not have been one movie, it also absolutely should not have been 3. They should have stuck with their original plan of making 2 films. Because if those of you might not remember, they announced everything was going to be 2 films. They're going to take The Hobbit and break it into 2 films. And then it was like just before they began production, they came out and made an announcement. I think it was around Comic-Con at the time, where they came out and made the announcement. Now it's going to be 3 films. I'm like, this one little book here? Anyway, that's just a little side thing I went down. Just to let you know. Okay, sorry about that. What's next?
All right, we got Duck who says, Buenas tardes. Hope this movie year has been great to everyone. But I'm curious, has any movie this year almost made you walk out? I've been close this year with Megalopolis, Bob Marley. I like the Bob Marley movie. And Transformers 1, all with different reasons.
What was the movie I just walked out of not long ago? I walked out of a movie this year. But what one was it?
I don't recall.
I think I talked about it on the show. And now I can't.
Because you walked out of X, but that wasn't this year.
Which one?
X. That was like the sequel to.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. That was the last movie
I think that was
walked
last
out of.
year, though.
But for some reason, I've got it in my head that maybe I walked out of one this year. Oh, that's it. Mark W. got it. Expendables. The newest Expendables. Was that this year, though? Yeah, it was this year.
Wow. Even that,
I think it was this year.
I feel like even that might have been last year.
Carla is saying Borderlands. I didn't walk out of Borderlands.
It was Expendables 4, right? That was last year.
It was 2023?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So maybe I didn't this year.
It was September, so.
I kind of wanted to walk out of Beetlejuice 2, but I didn't. I kind of wanted to walk out of Joker 2, but I didn't. So I guess no. The last movie I walked out of was Expendables. But so none of this year. All right. What's next?
Okay, we got Brian O'Connor who says, have absolutely been loving the Penguin series. Kristen Milioti deserves Emmy consideration for her role as Sophia. She's so brilliant here. I hope Sophia has a role in the future Reeves films. She's too good of a character to only be in this series. 10 out of 10.
Depends on what they do with her in the series. Because listen, if Reeves and the writers of the show have like some great death for her in the show, you do that. Put story first. Don't go, hey, everybody loves Sophia. Let's change the story so we can put her in something else later. That would be a mistake. So we'll see. But I am absolutely loving them on this. I want to see more of Colin Farrell, more of Milioti. They are doing both just a bang up job on the show. I am loving it so far. All right, what's next?
Okay, You Wouldn't Get It says, so John, when can we write in discussing Joker 2 and spoilers? I think that's door has been open.
Yeah, I think the door's open.
I'm in the minority where I love the direction it took towards the end of the movie. I had the balls for what it did.
No, it was the dullest, most boring, most safe thing they possibly could have done. That, by the way, made no sense. Like, if you guys don't want to know what happens at the end of Joker, plug your ears. Okay? Do we have our spoiler? There it is. Wait till the spoiler thing comes down. But they go through this whole thing where they blow up the side of the courtroom so he can escape. Literally just so he can show up at the steps. Which, by the way, why was Harley waiting there for him? Just so he can go out, have this one quick conversation with Harley that he could have had from the prison and is immediately just arrested again and brought back. It was like totally pointless, totally boring, no guts whatsoever. And then they even copped out. They took the easy cop out of the entire franchise by saying, oh, he was never Joker. Now this other guy who just stabbed him is Joker. That was the most boring, predictable, lazy cop out ever. There was nothing bold about it. Anyway, to me, I'm not trying to discredit how you felt about it. If you felt about it a certain way, that's great. I'm just saying for me, it was the driest, dullest, most boring and lazy approach they could have possibly gone. But that, again, that's just me. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Brian O'Connor who says Aquaman 2, The Marvels, and now Joker 2. I hope Hollywood, especially James Gunn, is studying exactly why these sequels to these billion-dollar films have flopped. It's still beyond shocking to me this happened since these were easy layups.
There's no such thing as an easy layup in movies. Understand that. There is no such thing as an easy layup in movies. Making movies is super difficult. Getting people to go out and spend their money to go out for a night in the movie is never a layup. It's never easy. It's not something that just anybody can do. And I know all film fans, well, everybody thinks things that they don't do must be easy. Everybody thinks acting is easy. Everybody thinks doing anything that you don't personally do must be an easy thing. For making good movies is very, very difficult. It's not a layup at all. And by the way, like Aquaman 2 made over $400 million. But regardless, it is unfortunate that these have happened. Again, we've seen some sequels in the past couple of years that have done very, very well. But yeah, man, just never allow yourself as a film fan to, I mean, let's be critical when we're looking at movies. If we're going to celebrate them or if we're going to analyze them, whatever, be honest. If it didn't work, it didn't work. But never think for a second that what these filmmakers are trying to do is an easy thing to do. That it was a layup. There's no such thing. Absolutely. everybody could do it, then everybody would do it. It's an incredibly monumentally difficult thing. And even as we're sitting here criticizing Joker 2, I hated Joker 2, but never lose sight of the fact that it ain't easy to make these things. It's incredibly, incredibly hard. All right, what's next?
All right, we got McDavid Deserves Better. Will you watch Inside the NHL on Amazon Prime, the docuseries of the 2024 season? William Nylander is in it. Oh, Nylander. I took a mental health break from work after Game 7 and nearly used better help. Amazon's Cup final footage broke me into a million pieces.
No, I'm going to be honest with you. I probably won't watch it. I mean, this is like Amazon's NHL version of what's the one they do on football?
Oh, 40 for 40.
Hard Knocks. Is that what it's called? Yeah. This is like their version of NHL Hard Knocks. I probably won't watch it. But I am going to be watching a lot of NHL. But just, I probably won't be watching the Amazon series. But you know what? Take solace in this. Your Oilers got to the Stanley Cup final. My Toronto Maple Leafs have not been to the Stanley Cup final the entire time I've been alive. Wrap your head around that. So I don't want to hear any crying from Oiler fans. Okay, I don't want to hear any crying from frickin' Oilers who in my lifetime have won 5 Stanley Cups and been to several others, when my Toronto Maple Leafs have not even been to the Stanley Cup finals the entire time I've been drawing breath on this earth. Just want you to remind that. So keep your boo-hoo crying. Oh, my Oilers. Oh, they were in the Stanley Cup final. Shut up. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Joker says, hey, John and crew, watch Joker during the weekend. For why? This joins the club of Highlander and the Matrix, where I'm going to convince myself that only the first masterpiece exists. Nothing else came along after. Any other examples? Bring on the filthy.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Look, the pantheon of Hollywood is littered with good movies that had bad sequels. We were talking about The Hangover, one of the greatest comedies ever. I think that movie's just absolutely hilarious. And then there's The Hangover 2. I mean, that happens. It happens a lot. There's certainly a lot of them. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the first Joker exists and the second one doesn't. That's just the way I'm going to have it in my head canon, but to each their own. All right, what's next?
Okay, Joker's back said, I felt Joker was like watching The Muppet Show, occasionally an enjoyable music number, but no story interconnecting each sketch. I did enjoy the build a mountain number, but most of the others, I was waiting for them to end. Who sings on a payphone?
Well, I'll say this too. Joker 2 opens with an animation that's actually kind of clever. That only set me up for disappointment because it starts pretty strong. The whole movie starts with an animated sequence that's actually again, very clever. And I kind of enjoyed it. And unfortunately it just went way downhill after that and downhill quickly. But again, even in the worst movies, I don't think that Joker 2 is as bad as say Madam Web. Incredibly strong performances like Joaquin, Brendan Gleeson, Lady Gaga. I think all the performances are incredibly strong, incredibly good. The cinematography is beautiful. There's a lot of, there's good things in the movie that just, unfortunately, it's a matter where the individual pieces are actually kind of better than the whole of when it's all put together. But yeah, it is what it is. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Blade Ain't Happening, Bro writes, could Paramount have done anything different with marketing or release date or for Transformers 1 to have a much better outcome? Our sci-fi animated films on alien worlds a tough sell for families? Treasure Planet, Titan AE, Lightyear, and 9 all flopped.
I don't think it has anything to do with the sci-fi. I think there are a couple of factors that went into Transformers 1 failing. Number one, they've just run the Transformers franchise into the ground. Literally a decade of crappy Transformers movies. Other than Bumblebee, and again, you guys have heard me say it 1,000 times, why Paramount did not do everything in their power to get a Bumblebee 2 with Travis Knight back to direct again and build on the strength of that movie is beyond me. Instead, they went back to the Michael Bay formula and did a very Michael Bay feeling Transformers film when they did Transformers Rise of the Beast. And for the record, I did not hate Transformers Rise of the Beast. I actually enjoyed myself at it. I did. Wasn't anywhere near as good as Bumblebee, but again, it just felt too much like that. And so I think there are just a lot of people who had it with Transformers. And then the second thing was the first trailer was kind of universally despised. Now, they eventually put out the second trailer at Comic-Con that almost everybody loved the second trailer, but by that point it was almost too late. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Your first trailer has to knock it out of the park. And I think those things combined with the Transformers name, unfortunately, kind of being devalued, with a first trailer came out that lost a lot of people instantly that never bothered to check it out again or give it a shot. I think that, now look, the Transformers 1 movie was never going to be a $700 million movie, right? Never was going to be. And I think Paramount needed to go into it understanding that we're probably not going to have huge box office with this movie, but hopefully this can be the cornerstone of building a franchise that we rebuild the reputation, rebuild the association of quality with the product, and that will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And listen, this movie has flopped so hard, I don't know that they'll ever make a sequel. But I do believe this. If they make a sequel, so many of us loved this first one that the sequel will make more money than this one did. And hopefully that's going to be the perspective Paramount has, but I wouldn't blame them if they don't, because this first one flopped so badly. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Suthia. So I'm watching Les Marvels for like the 6th time, and it's official for me now. Dar-Ben is the worst MCU villain. From her motivation and reasoning, which is all over the place, to the actress acting and aggressive facial expressions, subtle is better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I did not love the villain in it. Although I still won't say she's the worst villain Marvel's done. I think there were one or two that might take that title. Marvel's for me is still not a bad little movie. I mean, it's certainly not great. It's certainly not exceedingly good or anything like that, but I actually came out of that movie with some enjoyment. I like the main characters. I like their interaction together. The overall plot was definitely a weak spot for it.
Yeah.
But like some good snappy dialogue kind of made up for some of that.
I mean, all I ever thought,
villain.
Yeah, all I ever thought about when it came to the villains plot line was like they're just riffing off Spaceballs, suck to blow.
Yep. That was exactly, I think I said that too in my edit. If I might not be remember that right, but I remember thinking that in the movie, like this is Spaceballs. But again, it wasn't a bad one. Like it wasn't Secret Invasion.
Right. I enjoyed the character development. I enjoyed like the journey, but yeah, the ultimate thing was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. What's next?
We just did Suthia's. Suthia's back. So with so many hanging threads from mid-cred and post-cred scenes in phase 4 and 5 so far, I really hope they gradually come back to those threads throughout the remainder of the saga and not just throw them all into the 2 upcoming Avengers movies.
I think you can just safely ignore a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's ultimately, it's not important. Like little things that happen in post-credit scenes are not supposed to be earth-shaking. This means so much. Now, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I honestly don't think there's any imperative for them to, well, we've got to go back and address this second post-credit scene from this 2022 movie that we did. No, you don't. Maybe some of them they will. Again, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying they don't need to feel like they need to come back to things that got brought up in post-credit scenes. As long as they're not blatantly contradictory, I think they're fine to just ignore them or do them. I mean, that's fine. I just think they're fine either way. All right, what's next?
Tor says with a $20 tip.
Thank you, Tor.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the notification bell. Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing my job for me, Tor, because I almost always don't mention any of that. But yes, guys, by all means, please subscribe, like the video, and enable notifications. Thank you, Tor. Appreciate that. And thank you for supporting us on that level, dude. I appreciate that. All right, what's next?
All right. Dumb Take says, I haven't watched Joker or Madam Web. Here's why Web is better than Joker. Sydney Sweeney, too. Joker is pretentious and boring. Web is so dumb and is funny. Joker, one word title.
One word title. The power of the one word title.
Yeah. $1 billion. Folie, Deux, French title. Lost many interests. Those are the facts.
Look, I know it's stupid because I always say the name of a movie is irrelevant. It doesn't make a movie better or worse. The title of a movie is nothing more than a marketing tool. But as a marketing tool, naming your movie Joker Folie à Deux was stupid. That's not good marketing. Again, I'm not saying that's why it made 40 million on its opening weekend, but man, I'll tell you what, if you just called this movie Joker and Harley, or Joker Trial of the Century, or something like that, I think you would have made a few extra bucks. So yeah, it is what it is. I will admit this. I've already said that I don't think Madam Web is a better movie than Joker. But if I'm going to be honest, if I got told I've got 2 hours to kill, but the only two movies I have available to me to watch right now are Joker 2 or Madam Web, I think I'm watching Madam Web. Because at least you're right. Like there's points in Madam Web that are so bad, they bring me joy. Like it makes me laugh, or like it's just stunningly ridiculous. I think I would actually watch Madam Web again before I'd watch Joker. Again, that's not me saying Madam Web is better, but I would probably watch Madam Web before watching Joker 2 again. All right, what's next?
Andy Newton says, hey, John and crew, saw Wild Robot yesterday and absolutely loved it. Such a charming and beautiful story. Lots of awe moments. Did you get a chance to watch it yet? What are your thoughts?
I still have not. I mean, everybody else went to go see it. Of course, I mean, it's well documented. I've already talked about each day that I couldn't go to see it. And now we're just waiting for Anne. Anne and I want to watch it together. So now I got to wait for her to get back from Paris. So I've not seen it, but I've heard nothing but wonderful things about it. It didn't have the greatest opening weekend at the box office, but it did okay.
Yeah, I think it's over 100 mil now.
Yeah, especially, I mean, like, let's put it this way. Wild Robot has now made more than Transformers 1, which has been out longer than Wild Robot has. It's a non-IP, like as far as movie franchises go. It's a non-IP thing, and it looks a little weird, but I've heard nothing but sparkling things about it. All right, what's next?
Raymond says, I missed the Hans Zimmer concert last week here in Oakland. You mentioned it was a great experience. Any interest on watching a Danny Elfman's concert? Beside composing Batman, Spider-Man, Beetlejuice, he was in the 80s band Oingo Boingo.
I would see a Danny Elfman concert.
I feel like I have seen him at the Hollywood Bowl years ago. I feel like I did that.
I've done some stuff, like some work stuff with his daughter, actually. Molly Elfman is now a filmmaker herself, but she used to be in the online film punditry space. I even had her she was like one of my panelists, like at least once, maybe twice, for my Comic-Con panels and stuff like that. And you always knew she was going to get into filmmaking. But yeah, I would go see a Danny Elfman concert. All right, what's next?
Okay, Richard says it's going to be a very hard road for WB and DC. They're learning the hardest way to gain not just fans, but the general audience trust back, not since Batman Begins. I don't think any DC films will making making 1 billion or compared to Marvel, at least for 10 years.
No, you're completely wrong. Now, I'm not looking in the future, but winning cures everything. So I'm on record saying there's no chance that the first Superman movie is going to be like a monster blockbuster hit because, to your point, there's a lot of baggage now that comes along with the DC brand because, let's face it, the brand got run into the ground. And now they're starting fresh, they're starting new, and it's going to take a while to rebuild that, right? But make no mistake about it. And we're talking hypotheticals here, but if James Gunn completely crushes it with Superman, and then say the next film is also like huge with the audience and huge with critics, then I'm thinking the third or fourth film in could become possible billion-dollar films. It does not take 10 years. It won't take 10 years. But now, again, that is a lot of ifs. If they absolutely crush it, if the critics and audiences unitedly love the movie and stuff like that and everything, but they're not that far away. Certainly not 10 years, maybe 2 years. But again, there's a lot of moving pieces in that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. All right, what's next?
Dr. Stinky says, someone explain the love of Terrifier. I mean, watching innocent women being harmed is not for me. You got to be kind of sick to like it. People are throwing up in theaters with this fourth one. The director responded, we've done our job.
No, you're wrong. There isn't something wrong with you if you enjoy some kind of just schlocky entertainment.
Because no one's taking it seriously.
Yeah, nobody takes it seriously. It's called The Terrifier.
That's like saying like we're sick because we like Jaws. It's like, well, I don't like Jaws because he's killing a young boy
innocent people in that
on a
water
raft.
getting eaten and killed. No, look.
Yeah.
Movies are experiential events. And each movie delivers a different type of experience, but that's really the key thing for us, that when we come out of a movie, we want to feel like we just had an experience, whether that's joy or fear or contemplation or sorrow or whatever, right? There's a lot of different experience types that movies can give us. And if you go in to a movie and it gives you kind of some kind of a terror ride and you come out going, oh, whatever, if it delivers the experience, there's nothing wrong with people who enjoy that sort of thing. It's just a fun, schlocky experience, right? That's all it is. So I mean, it's not for me. Terrifier didn't work for me. That's fine. But there's nothing wrong with other people if they went in and say, well, I had a really fun, roller coaster, terrifying ride with it. All right. What's next?
6 of 9 says actuals for Joker 2 came in at even lower, 37.8, less than Morbius. The Marvels doesn't look so bad now.
Yeah. Again, that means it took more. I said before that at 40, it made just about a 60% drop. Now it's more than a 60% drop. I mean, again, it's just, would not have seen this coming 4 months ago. No way would have seen this coming. All right, what's next?
John M says, John and gang, I know y'all aren't super into anime, but Netflix is releasing a remake of a classic anime from a very prolific manga artist, Rumiko Takahashi. It's called Ranma. I'm guessing this is one of two. So have any of y'all seen it or heard about it? And if so, what are your thoughts? John, this channel question is not really any movie, TV. Oh, wait. No, that's separate from this.
Yeah. So, I've never heard of it.
I haven't
never heard of it. It's again, not my sort of thing. I think it's wonderful that it's a thing that's gaining momentum, and it definitely has a very, very passionate fan base. But it's just the kind of movie. And also compounded on that Netflix is doing it doesn't really inspire a lot of enthusiasm in me. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who are. All right, what's next?
Okay, John M says, John, this is a channel question, not really any movie, TV stuff. Why don't y'all release the fan questions as a separate video like you do for the topics? Oh, I think he means like the tip section.
Because that in and of itself would be a 30-minute video.
Mm-hmm.
So, no. That, and I don't think there's anybody going online specifically looking for fan questions. Right. So there's really no point in doing it as a separate video. Number one, because it's not a short segment. Like all of our topics are short segments.
That's the point of it.
Yeah, that's the point of having it. But the viewer question part is like a minimum 30 minutes long. So that by nature isn't a short segment.
Yeah.
And again, like our segments are there because while we may not title, like the main episode title today is about Joker, right? So if you're looking for some thoughts on Joel Kinnaman's comments about Peacemaker, you're not going to find the John Campea Show because we don't have that in our title or anything. So we put out the individual segment, and that's helped a lot of people find our channel, but there's not really a lot of people going out searching for the Q&A part of a show or whatever. And again, it's just over 30 minutes long. So that would kind of defeat the purpose.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Okay, our final tip from Mike Halsey with a $50 tip.
Oh my God. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for supporting us on that level, dude.
Yep. Hey, excuse me. Hey, John, it's Mike again in rural France. When Deadpool and Wolverine came out, you said I shouldn't try to avoid spoilers if I could see it for a while. So I saw your spoiler review and more. Finally saw the movie last weekend. Wow, that was a while. And really enjoyed it as fun and surprising.
Yeah, now I remember this. Now, just to be clear, what I wasn't saying to everybody in general is like, go get all the spoilers that you can before going to see the movie. But I remember he specifically mentioned that I'm not going to be able to see the movie for a while because it doesn't actually come out in my territory for a while.
Yeah.
To which I said, you know what, then I don't even think you should bother trying to avoid the spoilers because hell, even after a week or two, Disney was literally putting what some people would call spoilers in the trailers.
Right.
Like they were still putting out new trailers after the movie came out, showing Chris Evans and showing Wesley Snipes and all that kind of stuff. So I said, I don't think you should bother trying to avoid them. And listen, we're all different. For me, those types of spoilers don't take anything away from my enjoyment of a movie. The only time a quote unquote spoiler can affect my enjoyment of the movie, it's when it's a real legitimate spoiler, something that totally fundamentally changes the way you see the entire movie. like the identity of Kaiser Soze, or Bruce Willis was really a ghost. Like things like that, that literally fundamentally change the way you see the entire movie. Those sorts of things I don't like to find out before I see a movie, but
someone appears
in a scene. That's fine. I know a lot of that going into a lot of these movies, and I see it and I'm just like, I don't have any less of a great experience if it's good than I do otherwise. So that's why I told Mike in that circumstance, listen, if you got to wait months to see Deadpool and Wolverine, there's no possible way you're going to be able to avoid all the spoilers. So don't bother even trying.
I told him to get on a Eurorail and just get into an area where he could see it.
Yeah,
but he
to
didn't
go
listen to
somewhere
me.
where it does. And by the way, he knew all of them, and he still had a great time watching the movie. I mean, that's kind of,
you know what's funny to that point? Like, I knew about the Blade thing, but once you're in it, you kind of forget. You just lose yourself in the film, and then it happens. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. You're not like, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? You know?
Yeah, I remember. Some of you guys might remember this too. If you go back a little ways, we actually found out. I talked to somebody who was on set that said Wesley Snipes was here today, and Wesley Snipes is in gear, and it's like, well, there you go. And I remember Rob and I both said we both heard from people that, yeah, Wesley Snipes is in the movie. So, but then when it actually happened in the movie, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, he's here.
Yeah.
So it kind of surprises. Anyway, with that down, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Apologies again to everybody. We started the show an hour late today because of a technical issue. Apologize for that. Got it all fixed up. We'll be right back to our new normal time tomorrow at 11 a.m. Los Angeles time. That's, I believe, 2 p.m. East Coast time. So we'll be back on our regular time again tomorrow. Guys, also want to remind you all one more time that a little bit later today at 4 p.m. Los Angeles time, we are doing our first stream of Filthy Sports on our new Filthy Sports YouTube channel. If you are into sports, come on by and hang out as we chat about all things related to the worlds of sports ball. We're looking forward to it, and we hope that many of you will come and join us for that. So, for Jonathan Voico,
see you guys.
all of you guys, thank you so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.